In 2021, JPMorgan paid $175 million for a startup called Frank. It thought it was buying more than 4 million young customers. Months later, it tried to email them. Almost every address bounced. The people, for the most part, were not real. I'm Oksana. I spent over a decade in institutional investing. Today, I'll show you how a 28-year-old founder pulled this off and the 5 simple checks that would have cut it. The ones JPMorgan skipped. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. The product that actually worked. What made this so hard to catch is that Frank was a real, sensible business. In the US, getting college financial aid means filling out a federal form called the FAFSA. It's long, confusing, and stressful for first-time families. Frank set out to make it simple, the way tax software made taxes simple. Charlie Javice founded it in 2017. Students could move through the process faster and find scholarships. They paid a few $100s for the help. There is a real problem, and Frank built a real product for it. Frank grew out of a company Javice had started in her early 20s. Before it focused on financial aid, the company had tried a job searching tool and a credit scoring service. Once it became Frank, the mission was to cut student debt and make aid easier to reach. The product grew from there. Frank added information on scholarships, help appealing aid decisions, and a marketplace for online courses. It also offered cash advances up to $5,000 while students waited on their aid. Its early backers included the venture capitalist Michael Eisenberg. The company also pushed boundaries early. In 2017, the Department of Education made Frank change its web address because the name frankfafsa.com made it look like a government site. Frank settled, renamed, and kept growing. And Javice was a natural face for it all. She had been the founder since she was a teenager, starting a student microfinance platform called PowerUp at 17. She finished Wharton, Penn's business school, in 3 years instead of the usual 4. By 2019, the recognition was coming in. She made the Forbes 30 under 30 list. She also made Crane's 40 under 40 the same year. That's the nice thing about these lists. Miss this 30 under 30 and there is always a 40 under 40 to fall back on. She appeared often on CNBC, raised venture money, and put serious names on the board, including Apollo CEO Mark Rowan, who had invested in Frank. By 2021, she was a young founder with a mission people liked. It's worth naming the culture this grew inside. In startups, founders get rewarded for confidence and a big vision, often well before the results exist. The blunt name for it is fake it till you make it. Classmates back at Wharton told Fortune that Javice tended to hype things up and that they couldn't always follow what she was selling. The energy is how a young founder gets taken seriously. The danger comes when hyping a vision turns into making the proof. That's what this case is about. The Frank had momentum and buyers started circling. But the FAFSA niche has a ceiling. Only a limited number of students applied for aid each year, and Frank charged small fees to help with a free government form. To justify a huge exit, the story couldn't be about the form. It had to be about scale. Millions of young customers, a bank could grow for decades. That's the first lesson from this story. A working product is exactly what lowers your guard. When the things in front of you clearly functions, you stop checking everything around it. Here, it was the most sophisticated bank in America that stopped checking. Chapter 2. The number that had to be true. To see why the user count became everything, look at why JPMorgan wanted Frank. From about 2020, under CEO Jamie Dimon, the bank was buying up fintech startups. It worried about losing young customers to tech firms, so it wanted a fast way to reach students and keep them for life. In that logic, Frank's value lived almost entirely in its customers. The tool itself was secondary. So in the summer of 2021, the whole due diligence narrowed to one number: how many real users Frank actually had. In her pitch, Javice said about 4.25 million. She defined the term carefully. Frank had over 35 million website visitors, she said. But a visitor only counted as a user once they give a name, email, and a phone number. By that definition, she claimed 4.25 million. But Frank didn't have 4.25 million users. The SEC and the Justice Department say the real number was under 300,000. That's roughly 7% of what she claimed. So when JPMorgan asked for the data behind the account, she had to produce something that didn't exist. According to trial evidence, Javice first asked Frank's own head of engineering, Patrick Vover, to generate it. He refused. He testified he didn't want to end up in an orange jumpsuit. So Javice went outside the company. She called Adam Kapelner, a math professor she knew from Wharton. Prosecutors say she paid him about $18,000 to build a fake dataset of 4.5 million records. In a text showing to the jury, she wrote, "I found my genius." Kapelner testified he thought the customers were real and that the synthetic data was meant to protect their privacy. Asked about one name in a file, a Catherine Gordy, he said plainly that she didn't exist. That fake list went to Axiom, the firm JPMorgan picked to verify the numbers. Axiom confirmed that the list held about 4.26 million records. So the check passed, but all Axiom had done was confirming the size of the list. It never confirmed that 4.26 million real people stood behind those records. The gap between account and reality is where the whole deal lived. The scheme didn't stop at the synthetic list, and Javice wasn't doing this alone. Frank's chief growth officer, Olivier Amar, was part of it. Prosecutors say the two of them spent around $105,000 buying a list of real students on the open market. Then they paid more to add email addresses. After the deal closed, they handed the purchased list to JPMorgan as if it were Frank's own users. JPMorgan signed in August 2021. The deal closed that September. For her shares, Javice got over $28 million, a managing director job at the bank, and a $20 million retention bonus. Amar got over $7 million. If this is helping you to see how even the smartest buyers get fooled, take a second to subscribe. Chapter 3: The Diligence That Wasn't. From here, the story stops being only about Frank. It shows how the smartest buyer in finance walked past the one check that would have cut this. Start with how the fake data got in. When JPMorgan asked for the raw user data, Javice wouldn't hand it over directly. Her reason sounded legitimate. Data and personal information are protected by privacy rules, and her lawyers later argued that sharing it directly would have broken those rules. So both sides agreed to route the data through Axiom instead. A reasonable privacy concern became the cover that let a fake list past as verified. And it gets sharper. Axiom offered to dig deeper, using reverse phone matching to tie the number to real names and addresses. JPMorgan turned that offer down, so the one test that would have exposed the fraud was available and never run. A careful bank skipping the test sounds impossible. Two very human forces explain it, and we will know both. The first is urgency. JPMorgan thought a rival, reportedly Bank of America, was also chasing Frank, so it moved fast to avoid losing the deal. Diamond met Javice about 3 weeks before closing, was very enthusiastic, and set to get the deal done. When the boss wants the deal and the competitor might grab it, careful questions start to feel like obstacles. The second force is the halo around Javice. Forbes had named her to her 30 under 30. She had a Wharton degree. A famous investor, Apollo's Mike Rowan, sat on her board. Every one of those signals is real, and not one of them tests whether 4.25 million specific people exist. Prestige is reassuring because it lets you skip the boring verification. The skip is exactly what happened here. JPMorgan confirmed that the records existed, but never that they were real. It leaned on proof that ran through the seller. and it let speed and reputation stand in front of the real test. None of those mistakes are unique to a bank. The same blind spots show up in every decisions, and they are all easy to catch when you know what to look for. Chapter 4: The Collapse. A scheme like this breaks at one specific moment. It's when the buyer tries to actually use what it bought. After the deal closed, JPMorgan went to market to the new customers. That's when the list stopped cooperating. In its lawsuit, the bank said it emailed about 400,000 supposed Frank customers. Only 28% reached an inbox. Barely 1% were opened. A JPMorgan marketing executive later testified that an offer sent to the millions of users brought in about 10 new accounts. So the bank slowly realized that the asset at the center of the deal was hollow. Then it escalated fast. JPMorgan sued Javice for fraud in December 2022 and shut Frank's down in January 2023. In April 2023, the Justice Department indicted Javice and the SEC filed civil charges. Amar was added that July. The charges were conspiracy, wire fraud, bank fraud, and securities fraud. Each criminal count carried up to 30 years. Diamond later called the acquisition a huge mistake on a January 2023 earnings call. The trial began in February 2025 before Judge Alvin Hellerstein and ran about 6 weeks. To be fair to the defense, this wasn't one-sided in the courtroom. Javice's lawyers argued JPMorgan had buyer's remorse and rushed its own diligence. They framed it as a 28-year-old founder against hundreds of bankers from the largest bank in the world. They said the contract defined the data but never promised a specific user number. And Mark Rowan, her former board member, testified that users, customers, and visitors often mean the same thing in the business he backed. So part of this case really was a fight over what a user is. But that's not what the conviction turned on. And the difference matters. A dispute over how you count visitors is a fair argument to have. Deliberately manufacturing millions of fake people through an outside professor is what the case was actually about. The prosecutors also framed the case as bigger than one founder. They weren't about the rising startup founders lying about their core numbers to look attractive to investors and buyers. The case they reached for was Theranos. In a 2022 text, Javice herself had called it ridiculous that Elizabeth Holmes get over 11 years. Javice's own lawyer drew the opposite line, arguing that she was nothing like Holmes because Frank's products actually worked. On March 28, 2025, the jury found Javice and Amar guilty on all 4 counts. Javice did not take the stand. Chapter 5: Your 5 checks. In September 2025, Judge Hellerstein sentenced Javice to 85 months, just over 7 years. Hellerstein also ordered more than $22 million in forfeiture and about $287 million in restitutions alongside Amar. That restitution is bigger than the sale price for a strange reason. The deal had made Javice a JPMorgan employee, so a court ruled that the bank had to cover her legal fees, which ran into the hundreds of millions. So the bank ended up paying to prosecute the fraud committed against it. Amar got 68 months and faces likely deportation afterwards. Javice is appealing and she is still free on bail. In March 2026, the judge rejected one bid to throw out the verdict, and the appeal goes on. At sentencing, Javice expressed deep regrets, saying she made a choice she will spend her life regretting. One more thing from that day matters for you. Even as he sentenced her, the judge criticized JPMorgan, saying the bank had a lot to blame themselves for failing to do adequate due diligence. That's the whole point. So let me give you the 5 checks. Everyone comes straight out of this story and everyone works on any decision, not just billion-dollar deals. Check 1. A working product is not a proof the numbers are honest. Frank genuinely helps students, and that's what made the fake user count easy to believe. Say a friend brings you a trading guru who promises 1000% returns and really did hit that on his own account last year. The fact that it worked for him once tells you nothing about whether the strategy is real, repeatable, or honestly described to you. When something clearly functions, treat its claims about scale or returns as a separate question that still needs evidence. Check 2. Verify the think, not the count of it. Axiom confirmed that 4.26 million records existed. It never confirmed that 4.26 million real people did. Back to that guru, his proof is a couple of screenshots of his account. A screenshot shows only what he chose to capture and it's trivial to fake. What you actually want is an audit statement or a brokerage record you can pull yourself. Check 3. Ask who controls the proof. Javice wouldn't share raw data and arranged for a fake list to be validated instead. Independent verification means independent of the seller. Think of a property fund where the only numbers you ever see come from the sponsor's own PDF. If you can't confirm a figure without the seller's help, treat it as unconfirmed. Check 4. Prestige is not diligence. The Forbes list, the Wharton degree, the famous investor, and the CEO's enthusiasm didn't test whether Frank's users were real. The same goes for a verified checkmark, a big online following, or a wall of past employer logos on a pitch deck. Credentials tell you someone is plausible. They say nothing about whether this exact claim is true. The more impressive the signals, the more you have to make yourself keep checking anyway. Check 5. Watch when urgency is making the decision for you. JPMorgan rushed because it feared a competitor would buy first, and that fear is what kept the real test from being run. You will hear it as a limited spot, or around closing Friday, or a price that goes up tomorrow. That pressure is often there to stop you from checking. When you feel you must decide right now or lose the chance, slow down on purpose. What stays with me about this case is who got fooled. JPMorgan had thousands of analysts and lawyers and a CEO who personally wanted the deal. All of the expertise still missed a customer list that mostly wasn't real. The check that would have cut it was simple. The only reason no one ran it was that the story was exciting. And that's the encouraging part. The skill that would have saved JPMorgan $175 million is free. It's the patience to ask for proof of a number before you act on it, while everyone around you is rushing you to say yes. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful, subscribe and hit like. It helps the video reach more people. And in the comments, tell me about the most unbelievable investments anyone has ever pitched to you. And remember, money is not a one-time thing, it's a habit. Bye.